Only thing I can say is I know it is a labor of love. I know that.
It's, no, let's support. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon. It's good to have you here with in the Judiciary Committee. We're glad to see each and every one of you here. We've got about 10 bills and several amendments on some of these bills, and we've got a public hearing. Let me talk to you for a second about the way the public hearing will work. It won't be at the very end, but it'll be close. The public hearing, we will certainly let we have people that want to speak both for and against. We're going to give you it looks like there's four, we're going to get about 4 for and 4 against. We will give every one of you 2 or 3 minutes to talk. We will not take a vote on that today. We will take a vote on that next week, which gives the committee an opportunity to hear what people have to say. We will not take amendments on that bill today. Again, we will do that next week when we consider the bill completely. So with that start, Brandy, what about call the roll for us?
Hill.
Here.
Wadsworth. Here. England. Here. Almond. Bedsoe. Chestnut.
Here.
Faulkner.
Here.
Clammy. Pettis. Robbins. Here. Simpson. Here. Standridge. Starnes. Here. Stringer. Tillman.
Here. We have a quorum and we'll get started. I want to introduce a few people to you today. Judge Henry Allred. Where's Judge Allred? Judge Allred is from Walker County, and we are certainly glad to have him, District Court Judge in Walker County. We're glad to have him here with us today. We also have the Shelby County DA, Matt Casey. Mr. Casey, where are you? We are certainly happy to have you with us also. It's good, always glad to have you folks with us and being a part of this meeting. We have an intern this year, Maya A.G. Where's Maya? Hey, please stand up, Maya. You will see her here in the course of our meetings, and we're glad these folks, we have one every year. We're delighted to have them because of, well, look around. Unfortunately, we seem to draw a fair amount of interest when we have these committee meetings, and she is very, very helpful to us in getting everything done. And we got Ray Hawthorne back with us, who's our analyst. Ray analyzes these bills, gives us a synopsis of them. He's been doing it for, what, 4 or 5 years? How long have you been doing it, Ray? A long time. He does a good job, and we are delighted, again, to have him with us. Anybody else? Anybody on the committee got anything we need to do before we get going? Okay, we got several bills. For those of you that, if you're looking at the agenda, there's a couple we're going to take out of order because these folks have other things that they need to go and need to be doing, and I'd like to do that, to accommodate them all that we can. So the first one we have is Representative Woods, House Bill 168. Mr. Woods, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have today before you House Bill 168. The purpose of this bill is to amend our state laws to treat AI-generated child pornography or child sexual abuse material the same way that we treat actual child pornography. In other words, if you possess, produce, disseminate, or pander child pornography, the state will no longer need to establish whether actual children were involved. This bill also enables injured parties who bring civil actions against violators to receive actual or punitive damages. And this bill also raises the age covered in the state of Alabama from age 16 to age 17.
And before I get too far, Mr. Woods, you got a sub, right?
I do have a sub, yes, sir.
And has everybody got an opportunity to look at the sub? I'm gonna let you explain it. Go ahead and explain it. Don't worry about explaining the bill your original will. Go ahead and explain the sub.
The sub mainly provided legislative findings between lines 88 and 193, giving more background to the need for this bill. There were some minor technical revisions that did not change the substance of the bill, the intent of the bill, or the mechanics of the bill. One of the most substantial changes was related to the penalties associated with the original bill with punitive damages. The original bill mentioned up to $25,000 per image. After speaking with multiple groups, we felt like it would be best to remove that cap entirely and leave that up to a jury. So that is the basis for the changes of the sub.
Yeah, I will accept a motion to adopt this sub. Mr. Flores? So moved. All right, is there a second? Second. Thank you. All right, so do we have a motion and a second to adopt the sub? All in favor of adopting the sub, please say aye. Aye. All right, the sub is now on. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Woods?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
So can you just briefly tell us sort of why did you bring this bill? What was the impetus for it? You know, I guess one big question I always am looking at, especially with all the AI bills that are coming at us, is we don't want to have lots of duplicates and pieces of things all over the place. And so if you would help us understand, why you focused in on this part.
Sure. Well, with the evolution of AI-generated child pornography, investigations and prosecutions against those who produce actual child pornography are being significantly impeded. So AI-generated child pornography uses images of actual victims to create new images. So in other words, AI-generated child porn is not a victimless crime, and this is a growing issue nationwide. And I'm hearing from folks all over the state, have personal connections to people who have experienced this. We even have some folks who work here in the State House who, unfortunately, their children have experienced this. And so it just seems to be a growing problem. With technology evolving, we have new challenges, and we certainly need to be able to address those as it relates to this bill.
Mr. Faulkner, did you have a question or
Yeah,
comment?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Woods, I want to thank you for bringing this bill. As technology goes where it is in our society, it has gone ahead of us and in our laws, and this is something I think is really needed. And I know you've worked with law enforcement, our agencies on this, and AGs, and so really appreciate you bringing the bill. And with that, I'd move to give the bill a favorable report as substituted.
All right, the bill as substituted, favorable report. Are there any other questions about this or comments? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Motion and second. All in favor of giving the substituted bill a favorable report, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Woods. You get a favorable report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Look forward to seeing it on the floor. Mr. Moore, I think you've got a bill that's at least similar, do you not? I do. All right, let's go ahead and talk about that. That's House Bill 161.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 161 is essentially the adult version of the bill y'all just passed. It would provide that it is unlawful for any person to knowingly create, record, or alter a private image when it is depicted an individual has not consented to the creation, recording, or alteration in a depicted individual in a reasonable expectation of privacy against the creation, recording, or alteration of the private image. And it would also provide that a private image also includes an image or recording that a reasonable person would believe actually depicts an identifiable individual, regardless of whether any portion of that image or recording depicts another individual or it's artificially generated. And I think that there are a couple of amendments.
Who's offered them for you?
I've got an.
Go ahead, Mr. Robbins.
I have an amendment. Basically, the amendment is in everybody's packet, but it's to replace line 80 through 84 on page 3, and we're going to be inserting several examples of, we'll say, pornographic and sexual things, and then we'll move the code section to the end of those examples given.
All right, so that amendment is offered. Is there a second? Second. There's amendment. There's an offer and a second of the amendment. Are there any questions on the amendment? Okay, all in favor of adopting the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's adopted.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have another amendment.
Okay, please.
It should be in front of you. It's replace line 51 on page 2 with the following: distributing a private image, semicolon, to provide for exceptions, semicolon, to provide criminal penalties. Also replace line 118 on page 5 with the following: this section is a Class C felony. And then paren G, that no internet service provider, comma, search engine, comma, cloud service provider, comma, or affiliate or subsidiary of any of the same, comma, shall be held to have violated this section solely for providing access or connection to or from a website, comma, other information or content on the internet, comma, or a facility, comma, system, comma, or network not under the control of the provider, comma, including but not limited to the transmission, download, or intermediate storage of content that is a private image. So, members, pretty well stated there what this amendment does. It's just that the internet service providers, the people that allow you the access, are not going to be the ones held responsible for this. When they don't have any control over that, just basically your internet provider, internet service provider. I would move for adoption of that to amendment.
Okay, is there a second on the adoption of the amendment? Second. Thank you. Any questions on the amendment? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of giving the amendment or adopting the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Moore, the bill is back to you as amended twice. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I'm good. If that was
always an appropriate response. Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir.
Move to give the bill a favorable report as amended twice.
All right, there's a motion to give this bill a favorable report as amended. Is there a second to that? Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Yes, sir, Mr. England.
Okay, real quick, I just want to know what this means. It's the new section. It says a recording that a reasonable person would believe actually depicts an identifiable individual, regardless of whether any portion of the recording depicts another individual or is artificially generated.
we're in page 4. 88.
Yeah.
And what was your question on that?
It says a recording that a reasonable person would believe
depicts
actually,
someone who is identified as a legitimate person and not a artificially created, or not a AI generated, but a kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a, well, I guess AI generated type person that you can identify that is not being real.
okay.
And if I need to help clean up something with that.
No, it's kind of confusing. And, this is supposed to be instructions for people at its core. And it's kind of difficult to understand what I'm looking at. Any portion of the recording depicts another individual or is artificially generated. Are we talking about the individual being artificially generated or the actual video?
Yes, the individual being artificially generated there.
And also, we usually don't use the reasonable person standard when it comes to charging criminal activity.
Okay.
Because that's really, the standard isn't necessarily whether or not a reasonable person Because, I mean, who's going to testify to that? How do you prove that?
Right.
But, you know, as far as the bill today, I mean, I'm, you know, not going to hold it up, but I think, you know,
Well, it's something I'd be happy to sit down and discuss with you on how we might provide a little bit more clarity on that.
because the overall standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. If there's something below, if evidence in the case is something below that, which is what a reasonable person would believe, you know, that could be problematic. But yeah, it's something that we could talk about.
Sure.
I don't want to belabor that point.
Okay. Mr. Simpson, did you have a question or comment?
I think some clarity can help Mr. Moore on this. This is actually kind of timely with what he's done. I want to say, if you guys may remember, 2 weeks ago there was a large issue on the internet with Taylor Swift, with artificial intelligence created that it made a pornographic film, videos, image that they had imposed where it was artificial intelligence of Taylor Swift's body. So that's what your bill is addressing, is
Correct.
creation of what a reasonable person would believe. And please, I'm not coming for the Swift Army. That's not what I'm trying to get attention here. So I see it's cameras, but that's kind of ahead of the game from what you're calling for. Someone created this image that was artificially intelligence created that would a reasonable person believe was Taylor Swift when it was not Taylor Swift in those behaviors and that.
That correct.
We're not waiting on this. We'll save everybody else's time. Yeah, we'll hash this out at home.
Great. All right. Mr. Fodder, did you give me a motion to adopt as amended?
I did.
Is there a second? Thanks. All right. Is there any other question or comment? And all in favor of giving HB 161 a favorable report as amended twice, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Moore, thanks a lot. We appreciate
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Representative Drummond, are you ready on HB 65?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope the second time around is going to be the cinch. I've got several amendments on the bill.
Okay.
This is the same piece of legislation that you guys passed out of committee in last session, and I'm just going to give a brief synopsis of the bill. The bill is going to do several things. First is on the enforcement side, you will see where it will create a one-time fee. It will create a one-time fee for those who are selling these products, for an application fee and an annual permit fee for the distribution of those products. And that is going to have money for the enforcement side of the bill. Last year was going to create about $2.5 million for the enforcement by ABC and ALEA. That has not changed. There's also a penalty assessed to those who may sell to minors. That remained the same. The bill will also provide graduated consequences to the students, as well as I have an amendment that will talk about those who work with our students. It will also create an administrative penalty for advertising violation. It will also we also have a component in there from the fee structure where the Department of Education will create a vaping education program for those who will violate, not only for them, but also for their parents. And I think that's about it, Mr. Chair, and I have, I think, about 4 amendments.
I do too. So
Five amendments.
You got 5, but it's okay. Let's do this.
Can I start with the one that I have?
Yes, ma'am. Who's going to offer it for you, Ms. Drummond?
Ms. McClanahan.
All right, Ms. McClanahan, what I want to do is sort of take them in order. Ms. Drummond and I appreciate you volunteering. That vets,
And Mr. Chair, I just want the committee to know this is a piece of legislation. I don't think I've ever worked with as many people as I have. It is a compromise in a lot of areas, but there again, my passion has not wavered for those. Just on yesterday, Mr. Smith, who drove up from the Sheriff's Boys Ranch, came up to tell me that he had just taken 3 of his students to the hospitals who was sick because their vape devices were tainted with THC. This is a serious problem. Educators, everywhere I go, we're having all kinds of problems, from the Wiregrass to South Alabama to North Alabama. And unbeknownst to me, I have become the vaping legislator.
You know what, Mr. Owens, you can be known for a whole lot worse things than that. So, Ms. McClammy, how about talk about Amendment 1, if you would, please, ma'am? Right there. No, you can do it from right there. Turn your mic on. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. With Amendment 1, if you turn to page 40, it replaces line 1058. And with that, we have amended to state in Section 8, a statement prohibiting the possession of use of tobacco, tobacco products, electronic nicotine delivery systems, e-liquids, and alternative nicotine product, as those terms are defined under Section 2811(2), Code of Alabama 1975, by any teacher, administrator, or school employee on the campus of any K through 12 school. So this is a simple replacement from page 40 on line 1058.
Ms. McClammy, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now, Ms. McClammy is offering this. Is there a second to this amendment? Second. Thank you. We got a motion and a second to amend this bill, this first amendment. Any questions on the amendment? Go ahead.
Mr. Drummond, Representative Drummond, if an educator has a pack of cigarettes in their purse but doesn't use them, does that violate this bill?
It's totally use. Especially use in front of those students. This amendment was a compromise with one of the organizations, and I agree with them, that if we're asking the students on school campus not to vape, it does not look well or bear well that there's any teacher or support personnel that is vaping in front of those students.
Well, in reading that statement, it says a statement prohibiting the possession or use. But
yes, it would include but they shouldn't have the use or inside of that student, possession in front of that student.
But if that pack of cigarettes is in a educator's purse, not being used, this bill would make them in violation of this statute.
We can strike possession. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
All right.
Ray, can we do an amendment on that?
I think we can just strike it. I think we can, we're gonna, this thing end up getting engrossed anyway, so it'll get put together. Okay. Yes, ma'am. So we can remove possession. That's not a problem. Okay. Any other comments about amendment, the first amendment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Ms. McClammy, the first amendment is adopted. How about your second one, ma'am? What's it?
Representative Chestnut.
Mr. Chestnut, please.
And this amendment was presented by ABC, and it's mostly cleaning up language that was in the existing bill. And if you all know that we were working with so many organizations, and there were some things that they came across that they thought was going to be problematic in them being able to enforce.
Mr. Chestnut, please go ahead.
Yes, on page number 10, line number 222, you will replace that with the following: distributes tobacco products, electronic nicotine delivery systems, alternative nicotine products, or e-liquids for promotional. Go down to line number 225, and you will replace that with the following: tobacco products, electronic nicotine delivery systems, alternative nicotine products, or e-liquids, and is located in an area openly. And then down 2 lines down, line 227, you'll replace that with the following: purchasers can readily access tobacco products, electronic nicotine delivery systems, alternative nicotine products, or e-liquids. And then Go down to lines 237 to 238 on the same page. That will be replaced with the following: business sells electronic nicotine delivery systems, alternative nicotine products, or e-liquids. Okay. Now let's go to page number 12. Replace line number 284 with the following: tobacco substitute products, including electronic cigarettes or other electronic or battery-powered devices which contain or are designed to deliver nicotine or other substances into the body through the inhalation of vapor and which have not been approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for tobacco cessation or other medical purposes. Okay, now go to page number 15, line number 359. That will be replaced with the following: shall be sold, furnished, or given away at retail through a self-service display. Now turn to page number 16, line number 395. 395 starts off and says, a permit shall be valid only for the, and you will replace that with specified, only with the address specified in the permit application. Now go to page 17. Replace line 408 with the following: the permit annually as provided in subsection A. If a permitted business moves to a new location within the same governing jurisdiction, the business owner may apply for a location transfer as provided in this subsection. No more than one of each transfer type shall occur during the permit year. Now let's go to page number 19, line number 478. You will replace that with the following: $500. Okay, now go to page number 24, line 604 to 605 through 605. That will be replaced with the following: subpart D, subsection D1. Except as otherwise provided, a violation of this chapter by a person under 18 years of age shall constitute a delinquent act and be subject to the exclusive jurisdiction of the juvenile court. Subsection 2, a violation of this chapter by an individual 18 years of age or older but under 21 years of age. Also on page 24, line 613 through 620, you replace with the following: if an individual under 18 years of age is. Now on to page 25, replace line 632 through 633 with the following: is contraband and subject to seizure by any law enforcement officer. Is contraband and subject to seizure by any law enforcement officer. Now, also on page 25, line 642, replace with the following: procedures set out in Article 11 of Chapter 4 concerning alcoholic beverages. Go down to line 646 through 647 on the same page. Replace with the following: destroyed pursuant to the procedures set out in Article 11 of Chapter 4 concerning alcoholic beverages. Page 26, Line 662, replace with the following. Involved in a violation of this. Line 667 on page 26, replace with the following. Seized under this chapter by destruction as provided by rule. Now turn to page 28. Replace line 734 on page 28 with the following. Survey evidence. 4, no specialty retailer of electronic nicotine delivery systems shall allow anyone under 21 years of age to be on the permitted premises. Now, on to page number 30. Page number 30, line 786, replace with the following. Dress, trademarks, branding, or other related imagery. The board may adopt rules to implement an appeal process to review any labels that are denied. Also on page 30, replace line 790 with the following. Board or any law enforcement officer, subsection G, a specialty retailer of electronic nicotine delivery systems may have a sign indicating the trade name of the business. However, no additional signs, banners, or flashing lights of any kind may be visible to the public from outside of the business advertising that the business sells electronic nicotine delivery systems, alternative nicotine products, or e-liquids, including any depictions or representations of any such products. Page number 35. Replace line 928 with the following. Nicotine delivery systems who sells, furnishes, or gives away a product not. And that is the amendment. And
Mr. Chairman, could he read that again? I missed.
We absolutely can, Mr. Faulkner. You will miss your 3 o'clock meeting.
That was, I apologize, that was a joke.
I know.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
This is a lot. I appreciate Representative Chestnut's reading, but to have this many amendments on top of long amendments on top of a new bill, I just would prefer if we could put them all into a substitute and we vote on this bill through. I've talked to the sponsor. I would make a request that we carry this bill over to next week when encompass all of this up, all the amendments together.
All right, let's do this. All right, Mr. What I would ask that we do is let's get through the amendments. Let's get them all adopted. Then let's put it into an engrossed form and then bring it back up next week. You see what I'm saying? So that you will have it in a way that is easy for everybody to follow, but I would just soon go ahead and get through the amendments, because I think they're all going to end up getting adopted. And then at that point in time, we will let Mr. Drummond come back, and it will be in a better format. Is that okay, Ms. Drummond?
That's fine, Mr. Chair.
But if we, and again, I will cede to the power of the chair, but if we go through everything here, then we're just going to do the same thing when we bring it up next week in the sub. So if we're just saying, hey, let's put this through the sub next week instead of different amendments, we could potentially save a lot of time.
I think.
But I will cede to the power of the chair.
Thank you. I'd like to get them adopted. I'd like to get them into an engrossed form, and then you will have them where you can read them in a manner that flows smoothly. Yes, Mr. England.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt that really long amendment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right.
I've got a question.
Sure.
This may be for Ray or any member of the Judiciary, but is the jurisdiction of the juvenile court 18 or less?
Yes.
Yes.
And
it's under. I think it's under 18, isn't it?
Yeah, under
18.
Well, under 18, so it's 17 and down.
I was thinking that we changed that a couple of years ago, and there was a gap period that was out there.
There is no question that there are some gap periods in our juvenile law because you reach majority at 19. You quit paying child support at 19. You can smoke and drink at 21. I mean, we have some relatively inconsistent age periods. I understand that, but they're long-standing.
Hey, can we get, between now and next week, Ray, could you check and see if it's 18? Because I was thinking that we actually changed that a couple of years ago to get rid of that gap period.
Okay. All right, Mr. Drummond, who's got amendment? All right, all in favor of adopting amendment 2, say aye. Aye. It's adopted. Number 3, Mr. Drummond, who?
Representative Tillman.
And it's not that long, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. I've got it.
We replacing line 475 on page 19 with the following: location in a 2-year period. We go down to line 485 on page 19 with the following: same location within a 2-year period, the board or. And we go down to line 497 on page 20 with the following: 2-year period, comma, the board or hearing commission.
All right, do I have a motion to adopt that amendment?
So
Mr. Tillman made the adoption. Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Now we have one more.
Representative Pettis.
Mr. Pettis.
Replace line 687 through 688 on page 26 with the following: manufactured before February 15, 2007. Replace line 964 on page 36 with the following: implementation and enforcement of this section. Nothing in this section shall apply to any manufacturer of alternative nicotine products that were marketed before February 15, 2007.
Okay. There's a motion to adopt Amendment 5. Is there a second?
Second.
Four. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right. Who? Pettis is doing it. Okay. There's a motion to adopt Amendment 4. Is there any question? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. It's adopted. Number 5. Who has the 5th amendment?
No, that it's just 4.
There's another one.
What's that one?
You got it. Thank you, ma'am. You gonna hold that one?
Yes, sir, I'll hold it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we've got. We've got the bill. We've got 4 amendments. I would like to get these in a manner that y'all can read them more easily. Let's get this engrossed. We'll get it back to you. We will have it here next week, Ms. Drummond. We'll have it in a way that I think it'll move more smoothly. Yes.
Okay, and thank committee for indulging me, because that was the ABC long commitment. But thank you all. I appreciate it. I'll see you next week.
Hang on, Mr. Drummond.
Representative Drummond.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Faulkner.
On the, I guess it was the 3rd amendment that Representative Tillman read, I noticed it has been reduced on these violations against the vendors, is that it was reduced from being a 4-year period to a 2-year period.
The retailers, and Ellie is here with that group, the retailers and the groceries, they wanted to make it in line with the current tobacco laws, which is 2 years. We had it at 4, and we just trying to make it comparable to the others.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Let me say this, Mr. Drummond. I've read it. You know, I don't know if everybody else has read this bill, but it's long, it's complicated. I know you've worked on this for years.
I've lived it.
I know. I got you, ma'am. And we appreciate it. We appreciate what you've done. We will get it back up next week, and perhaps it will be a little bit easier for us to go through at that point in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
We appreciate you. So that will be on for the 27th, okay? Mr. Inslee, Representative Inslee, come on up.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. You should have a substitute. Does everyone have that? Great. So I'll explain just the purpose and then happy to go through the substitute. But this bill would prohibit persons from possessing a firearm that has a part or combination of parts designed or intended to convert a firearm into a machine gun installed on or attached to the firearm. The reason I brought this bill, and a very similar one came up in committee last year and passed, but the one last year did not mirror federal law. So with this version this year, it mirrors federal law, but then has some language in there to address some of the questions or concerns. Big picture, I've heard from law enforcement throughout the state that have been picking up weapons with these devices on them, but there's currently no state crime that prohibits them. They're only prohibited under federal law. So this would just add a tool to the toolbox on the state level when it comes to weapons with these devices. The two changes in the substitute, on line 61, we added in explicit language that says that any parts that are licensed under federal law would be exempt. So they're already exempt, but we just explicitly put that in. And then the second part, on line 48, we just put language clarifying that it's not possession of the device itself, but it's possession of the firearm that has the device on it.
It's put together.
That's put together.
Okay. All right. I will accept the motion to adopt the sub. Is there a second? All right, we're going to substitute. All in favor of the sub, of adopting the sub, please say aye. Aye. All right, it's adopted. Now, it's back to you as adopted. Is there a motion to give this sub a favorable report, Mr. Stringer? Okay, I'll let you do it. Let's get it on the floor, and I will absolutely let you do it. So there's a motion, though, to give this a favorable report. Is there a second? Second. All right. Now, Mr. Stringer, let's have your amendment to the sub. We hadn't done it yet.
I have a question while we're.
Please go ahead, Mr. Betzel.
Representative Ensler, I just you and I had some good conversation, so I appreciate your willingness to make some minor changes, and I think what Representative Stringer is going to do here is going to continue that process of matching this up with federal law. I do have a question, however, on the penalty piece.
Sure.
Under first violation, it's punishable by not less than 100 hours of community service. That second subsequent violation jumps to a felony. That's a pretty big leap between those two. Can you talk to me about that first violation, why we've set it so low at community service?
Yeah, so the feedback that I've gotten from law enforcement is that it's often younger people, younger adults that have these. They maybe have seen on social media or heard that they're popular and they're getting their hands on them. So the first time around, what we would want to do is steer them towards mentorship programs, maybe working with clergy to steer away from that culture of gun violence. But then the second time around, it's telling them, well, hey, this is there's going to be an even more severe consequence.
Should we spell that out more specifically so they get those educational classes? I mean, community service alone, and I think a certain sect of the population that perhaps maybe a smaller penalty. I'm not saying we start off at a felony at all, but is the community service piece actually going to do what we intended here? So I'm just, if we want to do education, I'm all for it. I think that could be helpful, but I just, thoughtful as far as if we wanted to do that, we spell it out a little bit.
Great question. No, and I would love to amend it on the floor and put that in there because I think that is really important.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stringer, are we ready on your amendment to the sub? All right, please, go ahead. Talk to us about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is just going to change the definition to exactly the U.S. federal definition. And it just says on page 2, strike the language starting at means any firearm and continues through line 47 and replace with, in accordance with 18 U.S.C. 921A23. And I did speak with the sponsor about this.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that, and happy to include that.
Good. There's a motion to amend the sub as we have just set out. Is there a second, Mr. Bedsole? Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now we are back to a favorable report as amended, because we did amend it. So can I have a motion for a favorable report as amended? Thank you, Mr. England. I need a second. Thank you, Ms. McClammy. Okay. Motion and a second for a favorable report of this sub as it has been amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okey-doke. Mr. Ensler, thanks very much. We
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you a lot. Ms. Gavon, how about House Bill 79?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. State Representative Wandalyn Gavan.
Gavan, excuse me, Ms. Gavan. I should have known that.
That's okay, Judge. You know, I've been called worse before, so I'm okay. I answer to it all.
I got you, ma'am. I understand.
All right, thank you. The bill before you is House Bill 79. Currently, under state law, human trafficking is a second-degree a Class B felony. There are two types of human trafficking in the second degree: knowingly benefiting from the participation in a sexual servitude or labor servitude venture, and then knowingly recruiting, transporting, providing, etc., another person for the purpose of sexual servitude or labor. If passed, this bill, HB 79, would create a third type of human trafficking in the second degree, and it simply states that a person who knowingly advertises online, either online or in print, or act with access to sexual or should I say labor servitude of another would be charged with a a Class B felony in the second degree. Let me just explain to you why I'm bringing this bill. I know we are trying to be as proactive as possible with regards to human trafficking in the state. But what I found with speaking with individuals and entities, and some who have been trafficked before, many of those individuals nowadays that may not be individuals who are actually either streetwalkers or were snatched from a particular location. Much of the trafficking begins online with a conversation between individuals, whether it be male or female. And from there, ultimately, young ladies are trafficked here in the state of Alabama, and it ultimately leads to them being transported away or leads into the other types of human trafficking as defined by the code. And so again, my bill would simply create a third type of human trafficking in the second degree by knowingly advertising such either in print or online.
Yes, sir.
Representative Gavan, thank you for that explanation. This is just off the cuff here. I know this is a simple, there's only really a one-line change to the existing law that you've made.
Just adding an additional definition to what human trafficking is under existing law.
Yeah, and I appreciate why you're bringing this and what you're doing. Do you think, I guess, advertises access to the sexual or labor servitude of another? In your conversations and doing the work on this bill, I do not know the answer to this. Do you think we needed to, in any way, define advertises?
I think we do, because someone could actually come back and say, well, I wasn't doing anything. I was just having a conversation. It was just a simple discussion. And sometimes that's what the predator does. But we want to make sure that we're clear we want to make sure that we are able to nail the predator specifically, because in many instances, the first defense is going to be, no, this was a simple conversation. And sometimes a jury may not be as apt to convicting that person if it's not clear that they were actually acting in association or acting in a manner for which they were actually attempting to advertise for the purpose of solicitation.
Okay.
It goes to the heart of the solicitation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cavan, thank you. Is there a motion to give this bill a favorable report?
Motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Thank you very much. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You got a favorable report? Mr. Cavan, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Shaw, Representative Shaw, how about House Bill 82?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is House Bill 82. Just a little high-level background because I know you got a busy schedule. A lot of y'all remember the unfortunate happenings of last year in Hoover, where a young lady created a fraudulent report of a crime, kind of created this elaborate hoax of a kidnapping involving toddlers on the side of the road and all sorts of things. Disappeared for 2 days, came back, and she was okay, still alleging that she'd been kidnapped for 2 days and created a lot of public alarm, created a lot of public expense, and at the end of the day, this crime only rose to the level of a misdemeanor. So what this bill does is it adds a level of a Class C felony if you make a false report of a crime to law enforcement that alleges imminent danger to a person or to the public. And it also provides that if it results in an emergency response and public expense, that you're responsible for restitution for that investigation. So that's it at a high level.
Thank you. And Mr. Shaw, you and I have talked about this, and I have an amendment to your bill. And my amendment is on page 3. It is lines 73 through 75, which is parentheses D. That as is written now, says the term of imprisonment for a felony shall be served day for day, and my amendment is going to be that we strike requiring that it be served day for day.
Yes, Judge, I defer to your wisdom, and I support that amendment.
Thank you. Is there a second for that amendment? Second. All right, any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. All right, I will now accept a motion for a favorable report as amended. Okay? Second, please. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Allman. All right, any more question or discussion? And all in favor of House Bill 82, a favorable report as amended, please say aye. Aye. All right, any opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
Good job. We appreciate it. Okay, Representative McCampbell, you want to talk about HB 154?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I basically want to start off by letting the public know that I'm bringing this bill for the consumer. I'm concerned about a consumer issue. I would, if you could poll the body, I would find that a lot of people have experienced or been a part of these home warranties and all other sort of warranties. And just to give you a little background on this one, this was actually something that happened to me. And the bill, because of what happened to me, is crafted in a very narrow form. But you have a company and a contract that says you have a repair or replace policy. Everybody in here has an understanding of what repair means. Everybody in here has an understanding of what replace means. But then when you get to the back of the contract, you find that they've either decided or written in that contract that now you have a stated value for a limited stated value, or you have an actual cash value policy. So the concern I have is that if you are actually advertising to the public that term replacement then it has to take on a commonly understood value. So that's what this is an attempt to do. And has anybody ever heard of a Pandora's box?
Yes.
In crafting such a limited scope, I didn't understand how large of a Pandora's box I was going to get. I've heard from people from all over this nation that have national warranty, and everybody wants to make my bill better by being exempt from it. So, you know, so when I discovered that, I decided I would look at the whole code section because mine was limited to home warranties. But I decided we probably actually need to look at the code section, and I realized we have not addressed this entire code section since 1997. I think I was still using a bag phone at that time. So there are some things that have changed in our society that we may need to look at in this code section. And I told them, I'm not the one that can look at it, but I'm glad they put me in the Judiciary Committee because we got some brilliant minds in here that actually I could put to work, and they could actually go through that code section and help us identify how we could make it a code section that is consumer friendly, as well as offer the businesses an opportunity to make a fair profit without fraudulently or putting things in there that people do not know about. So what this would do, and it's written this way, but I've had some amendments that people have asked me to do, and I've looked at the amendments, and that's kind of why I've decided we need to look at the whole code section. But what it would do is it would define the terms repair, replace, and cash value of any term used to refer to a provider's right to satisfy a claim by paying a cash payment to the contract holder in lieu of repairing or replacing or covered property in an amount less than the provider's cost to repair or replace the property. Just let us know that. If that's what your policy is doing, we're saying, just let us know that up front. Don't have it where we can't determine that, because if you tell me you'll replace my policy, my product, if you can't repair it, then that's what I would expect. That's a general knowledge term. It says to disclose on the first page of the service contract in bona fide print, in boldface print, no smaller than the largest type on the page except for headings, both of the following. Any limit on the maximum amount that the provider may be liable to a contract holder's remedy in the event of a claim or dispute over coverage, an explanation of the circumstances to which the limits apply, any right of the provider to satisfy a claim, resolve a dispute with the contract holder by paying the cash value of a covered property in an amount less than the provider's cost to repair or replace the property in lieu of repairing or replacing the property, shall disclose in all marketing and advertising content any overview or benefits under a contract to repair or replace or a replacement contract in the same type size or larger than all other types on the same page except headings, that the provider has the right to pay the policyholder the cash value of a covered property in an amount less than the provider's cost to repair or replace a covered property in lieu of repairing or replacing the property. Now, what happened to me is they made me an offer. It was actually a cash value offer. I'm 30 years of insurance About 6 years ago, the insurance industry went under something of this same nature, in which we had to, on our advertisement, on our applications, we had to change the print of what and describe what replacement policies were and things of that nature. So those policies have been changed, but these have not been addressed. And what happened to me, they made me an offer, a cash value offer. Then when I refused it, I had the understanding that I needed to write the Better Business Bureau. I needed to contact the AG's office. I needed to contact the insurance department. I represent 50,000 people. And in reality, I represent 5-point-some million people in the state of Alabama, the majority of which would not have had the knowledge that I have of how you actually contest this. That's the problem. That what really made me, though, decide I had to come forward was when they finally offered me a value that was still less than the cost of replacing, and I had gotten tired of fooling with them, I decided I was going to accept it. They told me I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. If I'm representing people and they're expecting us as representatives to protect them, then you aren't going to silence me. So I told them they can keep their non-disclosure agreement and I do what I have to do. So I'm here today to begin that process. I don't know how we're going to do it, but it's one that we need to address together.
What's the code section, Mr. McClary? Do you know? Mr. McCampbell, do you know?
That code section is, let's see, 832-5. Yeah, I think that's the one, isn't it? 832-5. So I'm open for any questions, but any suggestions on it as well, Mr. Chairman.
I got a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to carry this over, and what I would like to do is sit down with you and Mr. Latham, Anthony Latham, because what you're sounding like to me that you are presenting an issue that might be a very good issue for the Alabama Law Institute. If this is something that we genuinely have not looked at for 25 years,
yes, sir.
Like you said, we were all using a bag phone 25 years ago. The world has changed, and perhaps this is something that we need to get brought up to a level where people can understand it and can be treated fairly in that they understand what they're doing at the point in time that they enter into the contract. Right? That's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying, and I, as I say, I'm open. I just felt somebody needed to address this. And I didn't realize how big the Pandora's box was because I was living a nice little quiet life.
I got you. Yes, sir, please. Either one of you.
It's good. This is a good bill because oftentimes people find out at the wrong time that the company they hired actually never intended to honor the agreement that they signed with you. And they use the language that's in our code to create loopholes for themselves. So when you are trying to exercise what you thought you've been paying for a long period of time, they can always find an exception where your warranty that we told you from the very beginning will cover your appliances or whatever actually doesn't.
Exactly.
So I think it's incumbent upon us to protect consumers, to make them disclose what they actually cover and what they don't, and make them define it so you know before you enter into that agreement what you're actually going to get when it's time.
Yes, sir.
Don't you think, Mr. England, this would be something we need to get some folks that do this? This is almost bordering on what
fraud.
Well, yeah, it is, but I'm also thinking what the Uniform Commercial Code
yeah
oftentimes covers.
I do. I agree. And just make sure you don't put it in Faulkner's committee. Because we actually want to get it right.
I was going to put it in Mr. Latham's.
He was referring to me earlier when he said something about brilliant minds, weren't you?
I did say we had brilliant minds. I said Chris England and Matt Simpson and then David Faulkner. And the people stopped me and said, wait, you might want to take David out of that.
No, you're right. You're right on all three counts. All three counts. Yes, sir, Mr. Simpson. Go ahead.
Representative McCampbell, I noticed that all four of your new subsections, the first word in all four subsections was shall. So as opposed to another may-shall agreement, I'm just going to say I concur with your argument in this bill.
Thank you very much. We don't have to bring out the may-shall this time.
All right, Mr. Representative McCampbell, with your permission, I'd like to carry this over, give it to Mr. Latham, let him sit down with you and I, and let's see if we can't have a discussion on this so that it goes forward and carries out the intent that you want.
I appreciate it very much, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next thing we're going to take up, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Bose's bill. It's House Bill 111, and let me talk to you about this for just a second. House Bill 111 we've asked for there's been a public hearing requested, which certainly we are going to grant. I'm going to allow Representative DuBose to explain her bill. We are not going to take any amendments today, nor are we going to do anything about adopting this bill today. I'm going to let her explain it. I'm going to let four people, I think I have names here, four proponents, four opponents, talk about this bill. And then we will take it up next week where she will come back and answer any questions she has. I know you've told me you had some amendments, and we will let you offer those next week. So please, ma'am, go ahead if you would and explain the thrust of your bill, and then we will have the public hearing.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Judiciary Committee. I'm here to present HB 111. A companion of this bill was passed out of the Senate committee yesterday. This bill, HB 111, is a definitions bill. It codifies the time-honored definitions of male, female, man, woman, boy, girl, mother, father, and sex. It is important to acknowledge in this bill that sex is defined as the state of being male or female at birth. Sex is objective and fixed. This is a definitional bill for our courts to have guidance when interpreting laws that already exist in Alabama. Words have meaning, and my intent is to make sure we have uniform definitions and our courts have clarity. While this bill will allow for same-sex spaces, it does not require or create them. This bill only defines sex. It does not limit or define gender identity or prevent anyone from identifying however they wish. The bill acknowledges that there are rare medical conditions when at birth sex cannot be determined. These are known as DSD or intersex conditions. These individuals must be accommodated under state and federal law, including the Americans with Disabilities Act. In Alabama, we have had only 5 such cases in 9 years. Let me be perfectly clear about misconceptions I hear regularly since filing this bill. This bill is not about taking away anyone's rights. HB 111 does not create new law or change current law. It merely enshrines in our state code the original public meaning of words used in statutes already on the books. It does not erase anyone's rights. It does not strip anyone's rights. It does not change any laws, and it does not create any new rights. Again, we simply define words we use as a state to allow for a more transparent legislative process and ensure sex discrimination does not exist in Alabama. HB 111 is common sense, and I urge the committee to pass this bill at the appropriate time.
All right, thank you very much. We have a number of people signed up. We're going to allow 4 people, 4 proponents and 4 opponents. We will take them in this manner. First, we will do a proponent, and then I will do the first opponent, and then the next proponent, and then the next opponent. So we will alternate those individuals. Ms. Scallion, looks like Bishop Lowe, Emily Jones, John Tidmore are the four I have, the first four that signed up to be proponents. Jordan Givens, Destiny Clark, Samuel Barkley, and it looks like Tish Wan, W-A-W, is that W-A-N? W-A-R, okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, okay. Those will be our four opponents. Each of you will have 3 minutes. Brandy is going to time this for me. At the end of 3 minutes, I'm going to ask you to please have a seat, and let's let the next person have their opportunity. Paula Scanion, please come up, ma'am. Address us, tell us who you are and whether you're for it or against it, and then tell us what you want to tell us.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of HB 111. I'm Paula Scanlon, a former NCAA swimmer for the University of Pennsylvania and an independent Women's Voice ambassador. So I'm just going to begin. In September of 2021, Leah, formerly Will Thomas, switched from the Penn men's team to join my women's team. But how Leah stole victories, podium spots, and other awards from female athletes. What you may not know is my teammates and I were forced to undress in the presence of Leah, a 6'4" tall biological man fully intact with male genitalia, 18 times per week. We were at no time asked for our consent. To the contrary, when we tried to voice our concerns to the university athletic department, we were told that Leah's swimming and being in our locker room was a non-negotiable, and we were offered psychological services. Imagine how this affects women who have experienced sexual trauma. I can tell you how because I am one of these women. I was sexually assaulted on June 3rd of 2016 prior to my time at Penn, and I had to relive that trauma daily when I was forced to undress alongside someone with male genitalia. I share my experience today to explain why it is so important for Alabama legislature to pass this bill. Because if passed, this bill would guarantee that when, and only when, the state designates space for women, only females may enter them. How does this do this? By defining common sex-based words like woman and female, which are already used in 160 unique Alabama statutes, by codifying the meaning of these words, we protect our laws from being manipulated by those who would gaslight women into thinking their privacy is bigotry. Let me be clear, this bill does not erase transgender people. It simply ensures that laws enacted to protect opportunities and spaces that states sets aside for women and girls do what they were intended to do. This bill does not prevent the legislature from enacting new laws to accommodate people who identify as transgender. Nor does it prevent the legislature from making previously single-sex spaces co-ed. That is your prerogative. But this bill does require that these discussions be held in public, that the work is done transparently by the people's elected representatives, not by judges or unelected bureaucrats. I'm certain no one in this room believes that transgender people don't matter. Every person, regardless of race, sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity, deserves equal dignity and respect in our society. But in our quest for inclusion, we must take care not to punish women. This shouldn't be controversial because this protects the legislature's right to set policy, balancing the needs and rights of all its citizens, and members of this body from both sides of the political aisle can and should support it. And I hope that they will. Thank you for the time today to testify.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate it. Jordan Giddens.
Thank you, Chairman Hill, Vice Chairman Wadsworth, and members of this committee for allowing me to speak against HB 111. My name is Jordan Giddens, and I'm a senior organizer for the Human Rights Campaign. The Human Rights Campaign is America's largest civil rights organization working towards full equality for LGBTQ individuals. On behalf of our more than 3 million members and supporters nationwide, I'm honored to provide this testimony in opposition to the legislation filed by Representative DuBose. HB 111 attempts to adopt a discriminatory, unworkable definition of sex aimed at excluding marginalized LGBTQ Alabamians from state protections, with a particularly harmful impact on our transgender Alabamians. It will also have the unintended consequence of making it harder for all women to utilize state non-discrimination laws to address sexual harassment and sex stereotyping. This is direct and blatant discrimination, and it's unconstitutional, plain and simple. In June 2020, Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, a conservative Trump appointee, authored the majority opinion in Bostick versus Clayton County, finding that federal laws prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sex also prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. HB 111 is designed to undermine that decision and estrange LGBTQ+ individuals from protection under state law. We do not need to understand everything about each other to treat each other with dignity and respect. Making LGBTQ+ people strangers from Alabama law hurts our friends, our family, and our neighbors. No one deserves to experience discrimination or be erased in this state. When are we going to stop attacking and discriminating against our non-binary and transgender community members? The bottom line is, this bill is extremely harmful because it is purposely discriminating against an already marginalized community in this state. The bill is merely a political point to go after those who are gender diverse and score political points in the media. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We strongly request that you reject this discriminatory and unconstitutional bill. And let's talk about the real issues that matter here in Alabama, which is ensuring equality and fairness for every single Alabamian.
Thank you, Mr. Giddens. Bishop Lowe. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's let people talk and let's keep our comments to ourselves. Mr. Lowe.
Okay, Bishop Jim Lowe. I'm just a pastor. Okay, so as a committee of men and women, it would seem unnecessary to ask you to support a common sense bill that explains that there is a difference between men and women. But in today's society, there are people who are unable to define a man and a woman and don't realize that they are fundamentally made different. Some even believe they can be interchangeable. Therefore, it's a need for legislation to make clear by law what is in the past that has been plain common sense. Most people throughout history believe human beings were divinely designed by God when He created them as male and female. He created them equal, but He made them differently. And since then, they've been born into the world as either male or female for thousands of years, except up until now, we seem to have lost an ability to see the difference. Even those people who didn't believe in God, who had eyes to see, they knew there was visibly a difference between a man and a woman, and those differences needed to be respected. Failing to recognize those differences could mean the abuse of an individual, and that has always been understood since the beginning, and that is, again, up until this generation. Today, people have lost the ability to know the difference between the two sexes, finding it difficult to define who is a man and who is a woman. Unless we have an educated degree or a medical degree, we can't even say anymore. People have been confused, and as a result of this, there have been terrible injustices and abuses that have been done to both male and females of all ages, not respecting the differences between the two sexes. House Bill 111 is an attempt to legislate some sense of sanity and provide legal protection for the rights granted by God to each of the sexes, male and female. You, being a governmental body, have a constitutional and moral obligation to secure and protect those God-given rights for both males and females. And at the same time, you have an opportunity to honor the Creator who gave them those rights. Now, some of you may be concerned about what some or more of your vocal constituents may say if you vote for a bill that clearly defines the difference between the sex of a male and the sex of a female, considering it politically incorrect. Look, may I suggest to you it's more expedient for you to be more concerned about what your God has to say about being biblically correct. He clearly made them different, and those differences he defined should be and must be respected, or you as legislators will be held accountable to him for disrespecting his divine design. Finally, from this day forth, choose this day whether it's better to fear judgment of men who are but a breath away from death, or fear of Almighty God, who in truth will judge you for all eternity. It's time to put a stop to sexual discrimination and preserve equal opportunity for both males and females. Let this state be one that boldly recognizes there is a difference between a male and a female, and those differences need to be respected. It's time to eliminate the confusion.
Okay.
I pray that you give careful consideration to HB 111.
Bishop, we appreciate it.
And vote yes. Thank you very much.
Can I get them all done before you do, Chris? So, how about, if you've spoken, I'm going to ask you to stay for a few minutes because we may have some questions from our committee, and I'm certainly going to allow them to do it. Ms. Clark?
Good afternoon. My name is Destiny Clark, and I'm a proud resident of District 50, Judge Hill. I've known you most of my life. My grandmother bragged about you many times before she passed away. To be the fact, before I stopped my previous job, I've served you at the Cracker Barrel many times. I've shopped with you at Publix very often. So thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Thank you for having me here. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Destiny Clark. I'm a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and a girlfriend. Second, I'm a woman with trans experience. In my everyday profession now, I help trans individuals who are living with HIV. In that profession, they face many difficulties. Some face homelessness, some are in drug rehab, some are trying to get into healthcare. And my job is to help navigate this throughout this. I know some of the parts of this bill are single-sex spaces. In my profession, I can tell you that there is not a homeless shelter, a drug rehab facility in the state of Alabama that takes trans women into a women's facility. I've tried many times over, and each time they've all been referred out to men's shelter, and that is just something that we accept and take. Third, I have done everything per the state law currently that Alabama requires to be recognized as a woman. All of my documents now refer to me as a woman. I am a woman. Fourth, if we pass this woman, we open up the state of Alabama for discrimination. Just this past week in the state of Oklahoma, a trans youth who was assigned female at birth went into the bathroom that they were supposed to go to per law and was beat to death by their fellow students. If we pass this House Bill 111, I fear that there will be more deaths like this, and they will happen over and over, and they will start again here in Alabama. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak, and I encourage you to please vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Clark, thank you very much. Ms. Emily Jones.
Hello, my name is Emily Jones. I am speaking in support of this bill today, and I am representing Moms for Liberty of Alabama. So thank you for your time today. As I mentioned, I am very much in support of this bill. I'm sure y'all have read it, but the big thing for me to focus on is that the bill defines the terms male and female, and it establishes it in the code. There are two sexes. They are defined at birth. They do not change. They are male, they are female. They are made differently. As the previous gentleman spoke, we are equal in value in God's eyes, but we are physically different. I go to the gym 5 days a week. I kick myself in the tail every day to be as strong as I can. I will never be as strong as my male counterparts because we are physically, naturally, biologically made differently. I have good friends that are super strong and love them to death. They are so much stronger than me. As a female, I will never be that strong. But I am a mother. I am a woman capable of having children. I still remember when I was pregnant with my son, the little stretch that he would do that he still does today. And when he would hiccup, I would feel him inside of me. I felt that because I am a woman. I am capable of having children. You men will never know that feeling because you are not designed to do that. We are separate and will never be the same. We are not interchangeable. I will never be the father in my child's life as his father will never be the mother in his life. It does not change. So I encourage you to please pass this bill, codify it into law, man and woman, male and female. And it's in law, it does not change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Samuel Barkley, is that right? Yes. Come on up, sir.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for having me. My name is Samuel Bartley. I'm a biologist here from District 10. Reading House Bill 111, I have some remarks on terms such as male and female. This bill invents definitions that biologists don't really use. It does use words such as genetic, sperm, and ova, but not in the same way that we use them. It reduces this enormous spectrum of biology into fixed small categories. We do have terms and definitions. I promise you I love them. But they're meant to be helpful tools, signposts to guide our understanding of nature. They do not create fixed categories. The authors of this bill can certainly use their own definitions. It's their bill. But if those definitions were applied to biology, our understanding of nature would be incorrect and incomplete. A fundamental tenet of disciplines such as mine is that any lines we draw to make boundaries are blurred by some amount. Categories must always be open to change and refinement. Long-held ideas have been altered or even replaced when faced with new information. HB 111 attempts to hide the gamut of biological complexity. It is written with the spirit of, if we exclude these categories, and these differences, and these events, then we've only got two. And, of course, if millions of people are excluded, then only the people included will remain. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I ask you, if the law is to create categories of people using biology, does it make sense to exclude the biology of the very people it wants to categorize? I submit to you that this leap of logic is out of the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much.
Happy to answer any questions.
You will momentarily, I would imagine. Mr. Tidmore? John Tidmore?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm sorry I didn't recognize my name. It's Eidsmoe, E-I-D-S-M-O-E. I've been a professor of constitutional law. That's quite all right, sir.
I just read it wrong.
That's quite all right. That's why I didn't come up quickly.
Listen, I've now apparently am at least 0 for 3 today, and I may not be through.
No problem at all, sir. But retired Air Force, and I've been a professor of constitutional law at various law schools. And the purpose of this bill, as I see it, I'm not here to speak either for or against LGBT rights. Rather, I'm hoping that we can achieve clarity in the meaning of the law. And the question, does sex include gender preference? Does it include gender ID? Does the term men or women in restrooms and so on, does that just mean biological sex? All of that, I'm saying, needs some clarification. It shouldn't, but it does because of the way courts and others have been interpreting these things lately. You saw a reference recently to the Bostock versus Clayton County case of 2020, in which the court interpreted Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits sex discrimination, to include discrimination on sexual preference as well. The problem with that is Title VII doesn't say that, it only says sex, and it's very unlikely that in 1964 the authors of that bill intended anything other than biological sex. Question is, how are the courts going to interpret our laws that pertain to sex today? That's what Senate Bill 92 makes clear. That's why we have the bill. If the legislature wants to protect gender ID, preferences, and the like, they may do so in other legislation. But we don't want the courts to take our laws and interpret them to mean something that they do not mean. The proper place to make the laws clear is right here in the legislature, and that's what this proposed bill does. I urge support for this particular bill. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much. And Trish Warren, is that right? Trish War. Ms. Ward, please go ahead.
All right, my name is Tish War, and I am a resident of District 15 and a licensed social worker. In my experiences working in prisons across the United States, I am familiar with the 2003 Prison Rape Elimination Act, which includes standard 115.42E that housing must be made on a case-by-case basis as follows. Any written policy or actual practice that assigns transgender or intersex inmates to gender-specific facilities, housing units, or programs based solely on their external genital anatomy violates the standard. With House Bill 111 that I am speaking against, I am concerned for transgender, intersex, and gender nonconforming inmates as their classification based on biological sex with no regard to their lived gender would be harmful to their safety. I am concerned for the social workers, not only in prison, but in our various communities, who will need to mitigate this harm done to clients if this bill is passed. As part of our code of ethics, we must pursue social justice and respect the inherent dignity and worth of a person. We will have to work on undoing the damage done by passing this bill for the clients that we serve. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak on this bill.
Ma'am, thank you very much. Are there any questions for any of the individuals that have spoken? Mr. England, did you have something?
Yes.
Who would you like? Okay. Bishop Lowe, would you please come back to the mic, sir?
Thank you for your testimony. I just had a couple of questions for you. Are you familiar with the term intersex?
Yes.
What does it mean?
Well, it's not something that I would define because that's subject to somebody's interpretation of what they are. Or unless you mean someone being born with two different sexual.
Oh, but matter of fact, let's start there. Somebody born with both sexual organs.
Yes.
Do they have a place in your church?
If they were in my church, they would have a place.
Because it sounds like to me that your world is binary.
My world is based upon what the Word of God says. And if God's Word says something, I'm going to stand by that. When I run into distinctions or something that's different, then I have to allow the judgment of how I sense the Holy Spirit's telling me to move on it. I will never exclude any person from my church.
But you will before they enter your church tell them that they really don't have a place there. And the reason I say that,
I would never do that, sir.
Well, but your language, how you present, what you talk about, those things are discriminatory.
No.
And I could imagine that somebody who's listening to you right now, that is in the throes of gender dysphoria or having some issues determining, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure hundreds of years ago, 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago, we didn't have the science or the ability to determine if somebody was going through an actual, a real diagnosis these days. That now we understand there are differences. And what we've also discovered over the course of time is that when we start off from the position of exclusion, what we end up is a very large population of individuals that commit suicide. And that's part of why we are very careful in how we describe and how we define and how we determine somebody else's destiny. I was always taught that before you condemn, you understand. Because if you understand, then you may not condemn.
But I do not.
Which also means that before you can actually talk to someone and spread your gospel, if they feel like they're being condemned, they will not listen to you. And I can tell you, I understand everything you said today was heartfelt, and you believe it. I get it. But I can tell you that a lot of people who heard you speak today would probably feel like they have no place in your church. And I'm pretty sure that's not what you want.
I've had them in my church.
Well, and I'm just
I exclude no one. I don't want anyone to get any improper interpretations. All we're seeking to do is to define what is a man and what is a woman. Make it legal. Because right now, we already see people don't know the difference. A difference needs to be codified. That's all I'm saying. Now, I will tell you something about my church. I remember when I was younger, I could be excluded from a church because I was black. I will exclude no one. I've had gay people in my church. I've had LGBT people in my church. I have nothing against what somebody wants to believe. All I want people to do is to talk and communicate. And HB 111 merely defines that with some clarity that even a Supreme Court justice could say that I am a woman. I don't have to say I don't have a degree for it. When you were chosen because you were a black woman, how can you say now I don't know who a woman is?
But I just want you to know that the same God that you said create men and women also create people with both sexual organs.
Yes, he has.
And when you have that understanding, that means that it should broaden your perspective, not narrow it.
It doesn't narrow it. It broadens it to the point that I can accept. What I'm saying, we must not become so narrow-minded that we cannot accept people that are different from us. I've had people leave my church because I let white people in there.
That's precisely what I'm telling you right now.
Oh, I'm agreeing with you then.
Well, then I don't...
And I'm not narrow-minded. I'm merely saying define the difference so that people can know that there is a difference.
But I think we understand there's a difference, but the perspective broadens based upon our ability to understand and incorporate new concepts.
Agreed.
And what I'm telling you is, for us, and it really bothers me when I feel like I hear folks say that this is like a fad, like there's no science to this. People just wake up in the morning and decide this is what they want to do.
I didn't say that.
But when you
well, if it's implied, I think she's saying it was implied.
It was very much so implied,
well,
because when you said that God created.
Let me make it clear. The Bible says that in the beginning, he created them male and female. That's one or the other. Now, if people believe and they want to accept I'm something else, I will accept what they say. I'm not condemning anyone. I'm merely saying that a law needs to clarify for those people of us who don't have the same capacity to receive as I do, to have a law to say, well, this is this and this is this, and not have all these question marks. To anyone that's in this room, that if you're LGBTQ, I don't have a problem with you and what your choices are. I don't want anyone to misunderstand that. I want it to be understood. All we need is clarity. Somebody should make clarity and be unafraid to define that there is a distinctive difference. It's unfair to a woman to be put in a boxing match with a person that has, what's the word, assumes himself as a man.
We don't have to do red herrings. That doesn't happen. Well, hold on, here's what I'm saying.
It can happen.
The boxing matches.
Ladies and gentlemen, wait, whoa.
Come on now.
Hang on a second. Hang on a minute, Mr. England. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to have a discussion here, and we're going to have a discussion between this committee and the individuals to whom they are speaking. If we cannot have that discussion, then we're not going to stay in this room. Is everybody okay with that? Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. England.
It's just the point I'm trying to make here is God created intersex people, right?
I will accept everything that we have. God has allowed it to occur.
So if
he didn't by definition define and say, I created intersex. He created male and female.
People who were born with both sexual organs.
There are people that are born with all types of things that are different. We are in a fallen world.
That literally contradicts what you started with.
No, sir. I said male
my point
and
is, I don't think we need clarity on. No, I don't. I don't need clarity on definitions.
Make it clear.
But what I believe we need clarity on is how we treat people, fundamentally.
Agreed.
So
you and I are in agreement on that. We must treat one another with respect, not shouting down one another, not becoming angry if we differ. This is what, and that's why I said, I can tell you, one of the sisters that spoke a minute ago, she's a staffer of a person that is trans. He's been in my church. She's been in my church. And I've talked to them. We've communicated. We get along well. There is no discrimination that should ever occur to anyone if they're LGBT, if they are male or female. We shouldn't discriminate, but we need to respect the differences. Respect the differences of all.
Of all.
Yes, sir.
But
we need to codify that there are those that are born male and those that are born female, and that they need to be respected.
Now, I fully understand what you're saying, but if you codify this, you do create discrimination.
No, look, if you codify, a lot of things, and you can codify the difference between one that produces eggs and one produces sperm. Just say that. This is considered this.
Is there some women who don't?
Understood, but they have the capacity and the ability.
I think that's where we're going to differ.
You know what? We can talk anytime.
But no, I mean,
I don't even have to talk in here if you.
But I'm enjoying the conversation.
I enjoy it too, brother.
But I just want to make sure
Well, you're helping to make it clear that I have no attitude, nor do I mean to condemn anyone. I merely only ask that we make it clear by law so that even a person can say, I am a male, I'm a female. If I'm trans, I'm trans. And we can respect that there are differences. But we gotta respect, we cannot put a female, a woman born as a woman, put her competing with someone that's made a gender change, and that gender change has not fully converted them to the same thing of what a real woman, I shouldn't say real woman, that's offensive, excuse me.
You see,
I know how to respect that. I know when I messed up.
I think we kind of see where this is headed.
But no, all I'm saying is,
and I appreciate your testimony.
Do you understand I'm not being discriminatory? Do you understand I'm not being condemning?
Bishop, thank you. I appreciate
Thank you all for that opportunity.
I like both of you. I enjoy the discussion. However, we have other stuff to do.
Yes, sir, you do.
And I think we better move on with it. Please, sir, thank you so much.
God bless.
Mr. England, thank you also. We got two more bills. If you were here for this public hearing and you would like to be excused, I will certainly do so. If you would like to hear our last two bills, you are more than welcome to do so. Mr. Bose, we will have your bill back up next week for your amendments, and we will take a vote on it. Thank you. All right, Mr. Robbins, we're going to do 164.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be brief because I know we've been here for a while. So my bill, HB 164, similar to a bill I brought last session. But what it does is it defines what a commercial entity is in terms of distributing adult material and publishing that adult material. And if you distribute this material via website, application, or virtual reality, and 33 1/3% of your content is adult content, you must verify the age of the person attempting to view that material. So it will just create a stopgap to say, hey, verify your age either through a government-issued ID or a reliable method commercially reliable method to verify that age. And then once you verify your age, you can access any and all material that you want to. And that information where you verified your age, no data can be stored by that commercial entity. And if you store that data, there's a cause of action against for the individual for their data being stored by that commercial entity. Additionally, not just will the law require that you verify the age of those accessing the material, but there will be a requirement that you must verify the age of the performers on your website and have signed written consent from all performers that they agreed to, that they basically contractually agreed to have their image uploaded for profit on a pornographic website. And the violation of not storing the data or not having written consent is also a cause of action for an individual that has their image on a pornographic website. And the website must maintain a warning label on there in a conspicuous place that the material you're reviewing can be addictive, harmful, etc. And there's a phone number for you to contact if you are addicted and you believe yourself to be addicted. And another component is there will be a tax against a commercial entity of a 10% tax for their gross receipts in the state of Alabama, and that money will be dedicated to the Alabama Department of Mental Health. And the last thing is just a tweak to the criminal code concerning the distribution of a private image, that if you, as an individual, share, post, email a private image of an individual where they believe they had where they believe that they had the right kind of a confidentiality with that image, you must get written consent from the individual before you distribute that image. So we're just adding that there's a consent element now on the criminal code section on distributing nude images.
You have 3 amendments.
And I have 4 amendments, Judge.
Good.
They just kept growing overnight. So do you want me to go over those amendments now, or?
Good.
Okay. The first amendment we have is something from the Alabama Department of Revenue, where because this would be a new tax, they asked that we wait until, basically in essence, until 2025 to give them time to put all their mechanisms in place to start collecting that tax. And the first part there on line 151 on page 6, where it says a provider under sections 1 through 10 of this act, that was something that the Cable Association asked for because it was I only had section 3, so they just wanted to make sure they weren't liable under all the sections. So that's Amendment 1. It's a combination of a revenue amendment and Cable Association.
Okay, so you're moving that. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All right, motion second for Amendment 1. Any questions?
I got a question.
Sure.
Last year, or maybe the year before last, we passed a bill that would require a new tax on motorboats. And as a result of that, the Department of Revenue came back, and I think they used the term that they've got to design a new system, and it was going to be $16 million to collect it. Is there any information out there of what it would cost for this new system to collect some form of tax?
Well, I can tell you, maybe using the term system was incorrect. Talking with revenue, they would collect this just as they do sales tax. All they would have to do is basically create a code within their, not a code. And when I'm saying using the word code, I mean code in terms of software where you just apply and pay, but they just have to set up that you are a commercial entity distributor, and then you would pay that tax. It would be very similar, they said, to just the way they do sales tax now. It would not be.
You don't have to
any
buy a
more
new
complicated.
computer system for it.
No, there would not be a whole new system. That was probably an incorrect use of the word there for me.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there's a motion to adopt Amendment 1. Is all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's adopted. Talk to us about number 2, Mr.
All
Robbins.
right. Number 2 is from the DAs. It's just simply, it's replacing line 274 on page 10 with genital nudity or other sexual conduct, and then putting the code section in that location. It's just a technical amendment.
All right, so moved.
All right, motion second. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's adopted. Number 3, Mr. Robbins.
Number 3 is another bill from the Cable Association on making sure that the tax component we just discussed adding, in essence, what it's doing is adding the phrase there, any commercial entity. So it's clear that the tax will be levied against a commercial entity that distributes adult content and not all entities that may have adult content at some point. So that's that amendment.
So moved. Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's adopted. Number 4.
Number 4 is also from the cable. It's that on line 128 at page 5, add the phrase knowingly. Let me look. If it just says knowingly and intentionally, but that's what we want to add, knowingly and intentionally, as opposed to now where it just says you knowingly published. And want to do that in 2 locations, and then kind of tighten up and clear the exemption for internet service providers.
That's the same language we added earlier, isn't it?
Right, with the Faulkner had on that other, yeah, it's the exact same language that he requested, that it was on, I can't remember which bill that was, but it's the exact same language that was added earlier.
All right, so moved.
Okay, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Robbins, I now assume that you are making a motion for a favorable report for your bill as amended 4 times. Is that correct?
I am making that motion.
Second.
Second. Okay, any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. All right.
Thanks.
I got one.
Why do you have to get up? You can just sit down.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the criminal justice system now, we allow split sentences. The split sentence we allow now is a 20 split 5. What this bill does is allow a sentence up to 30 to split at a not less than minimum to be served of 10. I have an amendment that I thought it was clear in the bill, but I was told it was not. Consequently, I will ask that we amend this bill in line 53 and 54 on page 2 by saying that the individual is placed in an institution or treatment facility or an institution or treatment institution for a minimum period of 10 years, and that the execution of the remainder of the sentence, of course, would be on probation. So it would be a 30 split, but with a minimum 10 to be served by the individual. Because if you're talking about a 30, y'all, you're talking about a Class A felony. A 20, is a B. The other part of it simply says that it must be served. The court shall not suspend or alter the minimum period of the confinement. And I didn't intend for that. I intended for this to be a 30 split sentence that the individual would serve not less than 10 years in the penitentiary, which is 1/3 of the sentence, which is basically, I think, the law in this state.
Judge, just to make clarification, there were 2 amendments up here.
No, I'm only going to offer the one I just
Is the
offered.
amendment you have the one that has 2 paragraphs on it?
Yes, sir.
All in favor of adopting the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Also no. Thank you. All right, I will ask that we adopt this bill as amended. Thank you. Okay?
Bill was adopted. Thank you, Judge.
No, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. Again, thank y'all a lot. Good meeting. Thank y'all all for coming. We're glad to have you here. Come back. We'll see you next week, same time, same station. You're welcome. Thank you for coming, sir. Appreciate you.